Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Salesforce Platform Developer Day 2. Tonight, we're going to continue with our basic Apex. So basically, we're going to be going into the org, and we are going to continue with declaration of variables, constants, and the likes, okay? So continuing from yesterday, if you want to start developing maybe simple Apex, you need to go. This is like the default way of doing things. Okay, we're still going to go into SFDX where you can now code from your laptop or anywhere. Okay, but for now, this is how you can get started. Okay, you go to your developers console from the setup, and I just copy the URL and I paste it here because I prefer to work directly from the browser, okay? So I don't have to use two windows. Now that we have that, okay? Yesterday, I told you about this menu. This is where you get started with just testing your code, simple code. This is where you get started, okay? And you also have the logs, whereby if you run your code, you can check the logs. If you want to open the logs automatically, you click on open log, and anytime you run or execute your code, the logs will run automatically. We're still going to go into test, query editor, and the likes, but for now, let's focus on variable declaration, okay? Yesterday, we learned about declaring variables such as ID, which is the Salesforce ID, okay? And remember, it takes 15 to 18 characters. A sample of an ID is this. This is a Salesforce ID, okay? And you can put the Salesforce ID here. And remember, everything you write, you must end with a semicolon. Without a semicolon, you will get an error, okay? I'm just gonna mute everyone. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so before you can speak, you have to request permission. So now going on, this is a Salesforce ID. And as you can see, we can execute this code, okay? If you want to see the result of your code, if you want to see the value of this, okay, you will be able to see it using this system.debug, okay, which gives you the opportunity to find out what is inside this variable you just declared. This variable, you declare it as an ID, and you pass in this value into this variable. And if you want to find out what is inside this variable, you use system.debug, similar to console.log in JavaScript, to see. If you want to just execute these two lines, you can select it and click on execute highlight. Alternatively, if you want to just execute everything in this Apex code, you can just click on execute, okay? And if you click on execute, because you click open logs, it will open logs immediately. And you can filter to only show your debug log, okay? And your debug log is this, meaning that the value present in the Salesforce ID is this showing there, okay? So now you have all the other stuff which I explained to you yesterday, such as date, and you can see the way to write date in Salesforce. You use a new instance and you put the year, the month, and the day. This is you declaring a date. But in an ideal situation, it's not going to be you declaring a date. It could be you actually collecting date from a record in Salesforce, such as last modified dates or created by dates. Okay, so you want to know why you are using this. You need to know why. If you don't know why you're using this data type, you will not be able to collect the right data, or you might be getting error when getting data, okay? So it's very important to know that we have different data types, and based on those data types, you can collect values, you can collect data and manipulate data based on those data type. Okay, so now let's also, I showed you about methods. When you're working with data type, there are some data type that has inbuilt methods, such as day in the date. So when you write a date, you can find the day inside the date by just using the dots. The dots method would help you to find the day inside the date you just created. So for instance, if you have, let's say we have today, I want to collect today. What would today be? Today, okay, today's date. Let's see if we can use this. I think this is a formula, but you can use system.get today. But let's see if we can use this. Okay, we cannot use today, so we have to use system.get date. If you want to get today's date, okay. You want to get today's date, which is the date. Okay, let's see if this works. So it's saying string, okay? So the value that you're getting from date.today.format is giving you a string and you're storing it into a date. So what you just need to do is change this to a string and see. Okay? That is giving you today's, sorry, we did not log the debug. We need to log the debug to see what we are doing. Okay, so we have this, we execute highlights. We show the bug only. So as you can see, it's only giving us today's date. Do you see how we were able to get today's date from the system? I told you yesterday that anything that has this kind of color, they are default or reserved keywords in Salesforce. They are called reserved keywords. That means you cannot just call a variable today. You cannot call a variable today because today is a reserved keyword in Salesforce. Okay, so now that we were able to get today from the dates, I can take off this format and call this a date, and we should still be able to get a date. The difference between what we did previously and what we did now is just that when we use format, is going to transform whatever we have into a string. However, if we don't use format, it will be a date. And what is a date? A date is a variable called date, and you have to store it in a date. That's why you have to use date. Okay, so as you can see, this is the date. So if I want to get the day in a date, what would I store the day in a date, which is 19? The day in a date is an integer. The day in a date, okay? And I will store is as an integer. This is very important, okay? It's very important to know how to store. If you know how to store value, you will be extremely good with coding because you need to know what is coming out of this operation. And being able to store what is coming out is what makes you a good programmer, because you want to manipulate what is coming out. As you can see, we got 19, which is today's date, the day in today's date. Okay, so we did all this yesterday, and we have other string. Okay, we have string whereby you can just put a test field whereby you can put in quotes and you put your string. Okay, so we did everything like this yesterday. Now let's go into advanced stuff. I wouldn't call it advanced, I'll call it the next section. Okay, the next section does not necessarily mean it's advanced. It's just that as you go up, you will start seeing things that might not seem really easy, but then again, it's still basic Apex. Okay, we have what they call the non-primitive data type. Yesterday, we talked about primitive data type. Now, today we're talking about the non-primitive. What are the non-primitives data type. It's very important to know the type of data type you are working with. The data type we discussed throughout yesterday were primitive, whereby you have integer, you have blob, you have long, you have double, you have string, and the likes. These are primitive, okay? Then we have the non-primitive, which is list, set, and map. Why do we need this? Why is this important? Why do we need non-primitive data type? As you can see, when you were declaring an integer, okay, integer x equals this, right? That's it. You just declare x, and this is not programming. This is just basic, like extremely basic programming. When you just declare integer as this, and you now say, if you do this, integer y equals 24, okay? And you say integer z equals s times y. You see, this is basic programming. You don't need to go to school or to come to Blackforce to learn how to do this. The list, set, and map are not primitive because you can manipulate what you're putting in there. You can manipulate it. Like they are something that you can control. You can control how the data is being stored. You can collect those data and you can manipulate it. Okay? These are called collection. They are used to collect data and manipulate data. Okay? Let's break it down and let's start working with one of them. Let's start with list. Why or what is list and why do we use list? List is a collection. A collection. What is a collection? Collection is collecting data. When you want to save data inside this an object, you need to first of all do what? Collect all this data. You cannot just keep saving account owner, save, account name, save, parent account, save, account number, save. No, you have to collect all this data and save it at once. Okay, you save it at once. You don't collect one by one, like you don't collect integer x, save, integer y, save. No, you collect all the fields and you save at once. Yesterday, we saw how we were able to create an instance of an account. And your colleague asked me that, can we add a field from the coding like this? Can we do this? Because account does not have new field. Okay? Account does not have new field. Account has company, right? Name. It has a company which you can call name, right? This one exists in the Salesforce. If you go to your account object, you go to account, and you know that account name exists. Account name exists. Okay? That's why we can say account.name equals company, but account.new field equals field data. There is nothing like new field here, so you cannot use it. Okay? So list gives you that privilege, that opportunity. Okay? It gives you the opportunity to create field that does not exist, because list does not really exist anyway. List is just for you to collect data. It does not exist. It's for you to collect data. So if you want to instantiate a list, all you need to do is declare the type of list you want to instantiate. And just like we have for accounts, we have for every other thing, you instantiate. So the type of list is an integer. You see how you bring in what you've learned previously into more complex stuff. I want to create a list, and my list should contain integers, only integers. Then this is how you declare it. if I want to have a list, my list should contain string, only string. This is how you declare it. If you have a list and your list should contain only double, only whatever we've done yesterday, this is how you declare it. So let's start with string. Let's start with integer. I have a list called sample list, or let's call it list of integer. Okay, we have list of integer. If you want to add values, data into a list, you need to use a method. A method, like I said earlier, is what this data type is made of. What you can get from the data type is what they call a method. Okay, the method, what is available for you to use in the data type, that is what is called a method. So if you have a list, if you want to add an item into a list, you need to use what they call the list method. We have the date methods. We have a list method. So if you want to add one item into a list, what do you need to do? Use add method. And what is add? I'm adding 47 to list. So I've declared my list, okay? And I want to add 4 into my list. System.debug. So what have I done? I have just created a list. Okay, I've declared a variable which is a type of list of integer, and I have just added 4 to my list of integer, and I'm showing it in my console just for me to see. So list of integer is 4. That's all we've done. Okay, you will see how this stuff will become bigger once you start programming. But this is the fundamental. This is how you get started. For instance, if I want to collect all the account records in the system, all I just need to do is run a query and save it into list of accounts. That's how you use a list. But I don't want to run a query for you so I don't get you confused. I want us to take it slowly and step by step. Now I've added 4. What if I want to add more? I want to add more items. I want to add 5. I want to add 10. So my list has 3 items. If I run this query, if I run the execute, I will see my list has 4, 5, 10. One thing is special about the list. The list is special because it contains ordered items, which can be primitives or not primitives. As you can see, it can be a primitive or even a non-primitive. That means you can have a list of a list. But don't let us get there because that would be so complex. Let's work with the basic stuff. A list of integer, and we add 4 to that list. We add 5 to that list. But what is the most important thing? The most important thing here is if you add 5 after 10, it will be 4, 10, 5. Okay, so it is ordered. The way you want the item to be is how you will get it. And the first item in a list is 0. The index is starting from 0. So it's 0 based index, meaning that if I want to get the first item in my list, which is 4, I will say, get me the value in my list of integer at the index of 0. So let's see how to get the value. Again, remember, the method is what you want to use, okay? The get method. I want to get what is on index 0. If you look at a list, what we currently have is this. We have 4, 10, 5. Okay? And according to programming language, it is on index 0, index 1, and index 2. So get me the value of what is index 0. Get me that value. What is the value? The value is 4. So when you're working as a developer, you want to get the first 10 records in the system. You want to get the first record in an account. How would you get it? Get me the value of 0, the first record. Get me the value of 2, the third record. This is how you program. Once you know what method to use, you already know how to program. So right now, I want to get the value. I want to get the value of the index 0. What do? I use the get method. And what does the get method say? The get method says get index returns the list element stored at a specified index. My specified index is 0. My specified index is 0. So if I want to get, obviously, this will give you an error, so you don't want to have it there. So it's 4, okay? Index 0 is 4. Index 2 will give us 5, because that is where index 2 is, okay? Index 2 give us 5. This is how you get records. So what is the use case of this? You have been asked to query the account object and get the first records in an account object. How would you get it? You get it by just using the get method. Okay? There are so many methods you can use. You can use the add, which add number. You can use add all. Add all would add a list to a list. So right now we have what? We have a list of integer, right? Let me declare another list. List of integer 2. Okay? List of integer 1 and list of integer 2. Okay? So if I run this, if I should run this right now, it's going to give me list of integer 1 is 4, 10, 5. List of integer 2 is 0. It's empty. Sorry, it's empty. But what you can do with a list is, I can say list of integer 2, add all. Add all. What does add all? What does it do? Add all adds all the elements in a specified list to the list that calls the method. Meaning that I just need to put integer 1. This is how you manipulate data. Let's say you have a list here and you declare another list. You now want to add this list and another list together into list 3, then you add all. So if you debug, you see integer 2 is this. How do you add another list? Declare another list. List integer 3. Okay. Then you can say integer 3 like this. Then you can integer 1, integer 2. Okay. Okay. You have to have a method. Add all would add just one list. Okay. So you can add on top of a list. Okay. So this is not the this is saying add all will be adding a list. Okay. So what you need to do is say you want to add 2. Okay. So you're adding 1 to 2, then you're adding 2 to 3. So you keep adding to a list, meaning that if you have a list like this, let's say, three, 15, 9. Okay. So we have integer 1 to be this 4, 10, 5. We have integer 2 to be 3, 15, 9. Then we can have integer. We can do what? We can have integer 2 to add all integer 1. Okay. Then integer 3, if I want to, I can create another integer 3. Okay, just put some random number there. Okay, then I am still adding 2 to 3 after creating all this addition. Okay, let's run it. So let's walk it together. So we have 4, 10, 5. That is integer 1. Integer 2 is now 3, 15, 9, 4, 10, 5. Why is that? 3, 15, 9, 4, 10, 5. So what happened? We have integer 1, which is 4, 10, 5. We added 3, 15, 9 to integer 2. Then we added integer 2 and integer 1 to be 4, 10, 5, 3, 15, 9, then 4, 10, 5. Okay? Then 3. What is 3? Integer 3, we have add 83, add 1, add 4. However, if you look at integer 3, add all integer 2. What that means is that it's adding everything we have in integer 2, which is this 3, 15, 9, 4, 10, 5. Okay? Then we need to declare what we have in integer 3, which we did not declare. Then we should have 83, 1, 4, then everything we have just done. Okay? So if I should run it again, you'll see that we have 83, 1, 4, 3, 15, 9, 4, and 5. That is how you add items into a list. So list is a collection. List can contain as many data. I think there's a limit, but it can keep adding into a list. What we've just done is list of integer, but there's also a list of string. So it's not only integer, it's a list of primitive data type or non-primitive data type, but you need to specify the type of list you're collecting. So now we've seen how to collect a list, and we've seen how to use that list. So if you want to add a string, I'll call a list of string. Okay, a list of string, the same way you add sample A. Okay, sample A. System.debug. List of string is sample A. The same way we've done integer, we can do string. Okay, you just need to know what data type are you interested in. That will now guide you into what you want to save. If you don't know what data type you're interested in, you wouldn't know what to save in that list. Okay, that means I can have sample B, sample C. Okay. And if you run it, you will get sample A, sample B, sample C. Okay, that's the list. Look at all the methods we have. You can clear a list, removes all elements from a list. After logging, I just cleared that list, okay? I just cleared the list, then let's see what the list is again after I cleared it. Once you clear the list becomes empty. The list becomes empty. Now, what can you do with a list? You can also predefine the number of, okay, before we do that, let's remove clear. Now that we have a list, if they ask you, find the total number of accounts in the system. When you query that list, when you query that account, you will store it in a list of accounts, right? List of accounts. That's how you instantiate it, okay? Then you store the list of records that is coming from an account into list of accounts, okay? But business can ask you, I want to find the list of the size of account, the total number of records present in an account. How do you use it? You need to go back and check what method gives me the total size of a list. Size of a list returns the number of elements present in the list. What does that tell me? It tells me that if I want to find the total number of accounts, let's say we have an account record, I can just say list of string dot size. What would size represent? What kind of data will come out of size? A number. So you want to use integer, okay? Because the size, the total records present in this list is going to be a number, a single digit. It cannot multiple digits, but there won't be any decimal, okay? The size of this will be 1, 2, 3. We have 3 items present in the list. So the size of this list will be 3. Okay, that's how you solve problems. You need to know. You see why I told you that this is going to be your Bible for the next few weeks, because everything I'm going to ask you to do is here. You just need to know what methods you need to use. You want to sort, you can sort lists. If you have different items and you want to sort them according to how the items are written, you can sort them. Okay, let's look at another type of declaration. As you can see, we declare a list like this, which is fine. Okay, but we can also specify. Let's say I know for sure I want to only accept 10 items in my list. List of string. I'll say list of string, and I'll call it plans. Black Force plan. Black Force plans. I know for sure that Black Force plan has what? We have 3 plans in Black Force: the basic, the standard, and the professional. That means Black Force plan size can never be more than 3. So I have restricted this to 3. So if I want to specify, or if I want to start declaring the plans in Black Force, meaning in the index of 0, I have put basic, the starting of the list. In the index of 1, in the index of 2, I put professional. Okay, so I've declared the list to be new string of 3, which is the size of that list, then basic, standard, professional. So what does that mean? If I decide to find out what is in Black Force plan, okay, and I run this code, I get Black Force plan as basic, standard, professional, and the size is 3. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I can specify, instead of using hard, I can just use the index to specify the value I want in that index, knowing that my index starts from 0 in a list. Okay, my index starts from 0. So now let me comment this out and see what would happen. Null. Do you know why it says null? It says null because you did not specify what value you want to put in index 0. You did not specify the value you want to put in index 0, so the system assumes that there is no value in index 0. So you need to understand index when it comes to list. List is ordered, meaning that I can store what value I want to put in a particular index for me to use in future. Okay? Remember, everything is in the methods. Everything is in the methods. Let me show you another thing you can do. So let's say you have Black Force plan at index 0 is basic, Black Force plan at index 1 is standard, and you have this. So what would you normally do to check something? Whether you want to check if Black Force plan at index 0 is basic, you will use a method? Contains. Contains is a simple method that can help you to check. I have a list of string A, B. Does my list contain Z? Does it contain Z? You can check. This is programming. This is how you program. Does Black Force Plan, does it contain VIP? Why are you storing it in Boolean? You're storing it in Boolean because the contain returns a Boolean. Always look for what it returns. True if the list contains a specified element. False otherwise. Contains returns a Boolean. A Boolean is true. Okay, true or false. So you want to find out the value of results. How do you find out the value of results? You just debug it to see what result is. False. That means the Black Force Plan does not have VIP. So you don't need to start checking all the plans. All you just need to do is check if Black Force Plan has VIP. Do you know where this comes into play? When you start building your logic, where you say if result is true. Can you see? You start doing something, right? You start doing something. This is how you start building your logic. We're not going to get into flow statement today, but you get the gist, right? You are checking if Black Force Plan has VIP. If not, tell me. But you store the outcome of that check into results. Okay? You can also use what they call the index of. I want to find out the value present in the index, or I want to find out the index. Right now, I know that my list has basic, standard, professional. If I don't declare it that way, let me make it clearer for you. Let's take all this off. Okay. I want to declare lists in a different way. What you just need to study is how I am declaring the list. The different ways you can do it. I've shown you this. Which one? This one specify you have 3 items. This doesn't have any items specified. It just declares it, and arbitrarily you can add as many items as you want. This you need to add 3. There is another way to declare it, which is list. List of string, okay, equals new list, okay, string. Then you have sample, no, let's just basic. Then you have standard. Then you have premium, oh no, professional. Okay, so now we've declared lists using a different approach. It's still the same declaration. The only difference is we've used a different approach, okay? So don't get overwhelmed by the way you declare it. Just master one that you know how to use properly. And you declare it that way. Now, we've declared a list. As you can see, we have this list. But we know that this list is ordered. Okay, ordered meaning that 0, 1, 2. If you want to find out the index of professional, let's say you query a list, or you know for sure that your list has professional, but you don't know where professional is stored in terms of index. You can just say list of string or Black Force Plan, whichever one you want to call it, dot index of. What is the index of standard? index of will tell you what the index of A is. What is the index of A? 0. Similarly, index of standard. What are you expecting from this outcome? What type of data are you expecting? I am expecting a number. So I'll call it integer index standard. Okay? Index of standard is a number, right? So I debug it and I say index is 1 because standard is 0, 1. So I know that the index of standard is 1. The reason why you have these methods is to make your life easier as a developer. So please practice all these methods and see how you can work with lists. Remember, you have the size, you even have what I call remove. Let's say you've added something to a list and you don't like it anymore. How do you delete it? You can go to Blackforce, okay, and you click, you type in dots, remove. So what do you want to remove? I want to remove the index of 1. Okay, I have removed the index of 1. So let me display Blackforce plan again and see what we have before remove and what we have after remove. Okay, Blackforce plan. This we have before remove, Blackforce plan. This we have after remove. Okay, so let's see. So index of standard is 1. We know that. Blackforce plan before remove is this. Blackforce plan after remove is this. We've removed the standard. How did we remove the standard? We go to the index and remove the index of 1, which we know definitely is in standard. Okay, that is how to work with list. You can do anything with list as long as you know how to use it. Okay, so you've seen how to add into a list. You've seen how to remove. You've seen how to find out if a list contains something. Okay, let's go into sets. What is sets? Why do we use sets? Why do we use sets over lists? Set is unordered collection. That means it is not ordered, doesn't have an index, whether you have 0, 1, it's not ordered. Okay, and it contains unique elements, meaning that set can be used to collect unique elements. BVN. You cannot have someone with two, you cannot have a similar BVN in a system. So if you want to collect all the BVNs in a record, you use sets, you don't use lists. Lists can contain duplicates, but sets cannot contain duplicates. By BVN, I mean your identity, your SIN number, your SIN number, your social insurance number. There can never be anyone that shares the same social insurance number as you. So if you want to collect social insurance number or something that is unique, you use sets. Let's go to sets. How do you use sets? You go to the set class. As you can see, everything I'm teaching you is right here. Is right here. The same way you declare a list, the same way you're declaring a set, but slightly different, right? Set of string. You can also have set of integer, right? You can also have set of whatever you want to collect it. As long as it's a primitive, you can always have it. So now you say you have a set of S1. How do you add item to a set? You use the add method. The add method would help you to add item into a set. Then you debug to find out what you have in set 1. The same way we've used list, the same way we see that set as just one. Can you see the difference? The difference between list and set, let's go to, you see list, it's the brackets is like normal brackets. With set, you have the curly brackets. Understand the difference, because this is where your knowledge of JavaScript will come into place when you start working with the type of brackets, okay? So you have the curly brackets, and if you want to add more item to sets, you use the add method. Okay, this stuff is very basic, but you need to know the method. What method do I want? The same way you can copy a list, you can copy a set, meaning that I can declare a new set and I'm copying set 1 into set 2. Okay? Set 2 is this. And if I select all this, you will see that set 1 will be copied into set 2. If you add some items into set 2 before you copy it, okay, some items, then your copy is going to have extra item. Let's put some item here. Okay. S2 was not declared before you add, so you need to put it after, because we need to declare S2 before we add it, okay? You put it after. And we have item 1, item 2, item 1, item 2, some items. That's how to use a set. But there is more to set than just adding items. How do you know what to do with the set? You go to what they call the methods. The same methods we have, you guys are seeing it as very basic, but when you start programming, you don't want to just add. You want to check, find out if a set is empty. Before we do that, let's do item 1 twice, okay? I am adding item 1 twice into my set. What differentiates set and a list is, with list, you can add any item. With set, you can only add a unique item, meaning that you cannot have item 1 twice. If it realizes that it is the same thing, it's just going to pick one. That's it. That's the benefit of a set. Okay? That's the benefit of a set. So let's use set of integer. Okay? The same way, you have the list, you have the integer. When you add into a set, can you see the set just organizes itself? You have some items here. And it's arranging itself. Okay? You can use this when you are writing code. You can easily organize the numbers, the integers, and you can use it. Okay? So maybe you collect primary keys, auto numbers, or something like that. Then you can just use a set to collect the primary keys and arrange them, because set is always unique and there are no duplicates in the set. Okay? So now that we have sets, what if we want to add a list to a set? List of integer, sample list, then new list integer. Okay. Then I'm going to say sample list dot add. Okay. Meaning that I have just added 1. No, let me add 10. Okay. I've just added 10 to sample list. Now I have a set and I have a list. So what can I do? I can literally say, okay, I can literally say I want to create a new set, or not just create a new set. I can just, I can create a new set based off this list. Okay, I'll just say set string, oh no, integer, sorry. Integer, which is S3. Then I say is a new set, okay? Is a new set of integer, but it is my sample list. It is my sample list. That means I don't need to debug S3, okay? Debug system.debug S3. Okay, so let's see. So basically we've collected a list of integer and we are just adding a set to it. We're creating a set out of a list, okay? It's gonna be 10, that's it. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you can add a set, you can create a list from, you can create a set from a list, okay? But then again, you need to look at the methods. Everything I'm doing is based on the methods. I'm not doing anything outside of this. Add all from list, add all elements in the specified list to a set. Add from set, add elements in one set to the other. Clear? You can remove all the elements. This is what I want to show you. It's empty. Find out if a set is empty. Why should you find out? Perhaps you might be working on certain things, but before you can, let me tell you why you want to do that, okay? Let's take this off. Sample list, right? Sample list. And let's say over here, I say sample list dot get 0. Okay? List index out of bound, meaning that the list does not have any item and I am getting the 0 index. The list does not have index 0. There is nothing in the list. If I decide to add an item to the list, I wouldn't get that error. Why? Because the list now has an item. Okay? The list now has an item and I'm getting the 0, the first element. If I do not put this, then it wouldn't have an item. Similarly, if you're writing a code, you cannot just call get. If you call get immediately, you're going to have what they call index out of bounds. So you might want to say, find me the size of this list. What is the value that will come out of list size? Is an integer, right? Find me the value of the list size. Now, do a quick check. If list size is greater than 0, okay, then do something. We're going to get to control flows maybe tomorrow. So before you call get, you need to check. You need to check. So why am I showing you this? Is empty is a way to check if a set is empty. If a set is empty, okay? It's a way to check if a set is empty. Set2, is set2 empty? Yes or no? What does that mean? It means that if I want to store the results of my check, I have to use a Boolean results check. Is set2 empty? The answer I will get is a yes or no. How do I store the result of that answer? I put results check, which is a Boolean, yes or no. Then what do? If results check, meaning that if result check is true, do this. Okay? That means if the result check is true, do this. But if you want to negate that, you can just put this. Okay? You can just put this, meaning that if the result check is not true, that is what this means. If the result check is not true, that is why normal arithmetic algebra is important for programming. We're going to get there tomorrow, but for now, I want to focus on variables, okay? Result check is empty. So always check before you start manipulating the data. You cannot manipulate something that does not exist. You need to check if S2 is not empty. You need to check if the list has something. Okay, how do I check list? Let's go to list. Go to list. Okay, go to the methods in list and contains equals get hash code. It's empty. The same way we have for set, we have for list. You check if the list is empty before you call what? The get. Because once you call this and the list is not empty, you're going to get an error. Okay? So learn the methods. The methods are very important, okay? So the same way we've seen how to use list, before we finish set, let me do more examples. So you've seen set of integer, set of string, okay? And you can also create sets the same way we created list. Remember, set, which is a set of string, sample set, okay? They say new set, which is a set of string, then sample A, comma, sample B, comma, sample C. Okay, so you have this. This is how to create a set. You can create a set without having to specify the value. It's okay. You can create a set by specifying the value. It's okay, as long as you know how to declare a set. The same methods, not all the methods are common to everything, but the same way you check if a set contains AB, you can check if the set contains Z. For instance, we have sample A, B, C. Then I want to use contains, okay? Then I can say sample set dot contains, which is a way for me to check if my set contains sample A. What would be the result of my check? If I want to check something, my result would always be a Boolean, which is either true or false. Boolean results check sample A, right? Boolean result check sample A. Make sure that you have it in quotes, okay? If you don't have it in quotes, you are, because contains is checking the elements, right? So the elements are in quotes. That means you need to represent it properly. So you have the highlight, duplicate field sample set, because we already have sample sets. 1, 2, 1, 2, okay? 2 is what we're interested in. As you can see, I can explain or I can figure out my error based on what I'm getting. I did not show the bug, so I can just show the bug. If you do not debug your result check, you would not see the result check, okay? So we have the result check, which is going to be a Boolean, true. That means it contains sample A. What if we make it AB? Which should be false. Okay, it does not contain AB. This is how you program, okay? You've seen how to use sets. You've seen how to use list. Now let's go to the third type of collection. Remember, a collection is what you use to collect data. The way you want to collect the data is up to you. However, collection is what you use to collect the data. If they ask you, how can you store an account records? List, you can store an account records. How can you store all the primary keys? Sets, you can use to store all the primary keys. Now, map. What is the use case for map? What is map? Let's go to the documentation. Map is a type of collection that has what they call key and value pairs. What do I mean? Contains method for collection type. Map keys and values can be of any data type, which is primitive or not primitive, but uniqueness of map keys of user-defined types is determined by equals. That means if I want to check whether a key is equal to another key, then I can use the equal hash code, which we're going to probably go through in some example. But the most important thing is to know the use case. The use case is more important than whatever you're seeing right now. And how do you do the use case? The use case could be, I want to get all the IDs of an account and get the associating account name. Okay, so I want to get ID, which is the ID present here in the URL. That means I'm storing all this ID and I'm getting all the account name. So meaning that I have ID and I have the account name corresponding corresponding to this ID. Okay, that's the use case. Why would you want to do that? You might want to do that for so many reasons. You might want to manipulate things and change or update all the account names in the system. So you just write a query that gives you all the account name. You store it using a map. Then you loop through. Looping through means that you go through each ID and you update the account name of that ID. So let's see how this really works. The map has what they call the key and value. This is the key. This is the value. The key does not necessarily have to be integer, okay? It could also be a string, meaning string, but mostly it's usually integer, okay? Most of the time it's usually integer based on the example I just showed you. You're looping through all the ID, which you're going to be doing tomorrow, and you are changing the value of the account name. So sample map equals new map That's it. As you can see, it follows the same pattern, whether it is a list, a set, or a map. What you've written here will be equal to what you've written here because you're declaring a new instance of that map. So how do you add items into a map? Sample map dot put. That's what you use to add item. So now think about it. The map says for you to add an item into me, you need to specify two things. For our list, we only specify one. For our set, we only specify one. However, for our map, we need to specify what? Two. Okay, because that is what is required. Based on the type, which is integer, you need to specify an integer, and you need to specify a string. That's how to write into a map. Then, if you want to see what you have, system.debug, sample map, see what you have in your sample map. Okay, see what you have in your sample map. You have 1 equals sample A, meaning the key 1 equals sample A, which is a string. Okay? If you want to have another key in your map, you specify 2 equals B. But obviously, you don't have to be very ordered. You can just say 21 equals BC or whatever it is, okay? Then let's see what we have in our map. Map sample 1, 2, 3. The bottom line is with a map, you have what they call the key and the value to that key. It's going to be very useful when you start programming because that is the basis of programming, knowing what to store. So it does not necessarily have to be integer string. Okay, let's have another use case for map. I want to store all colors and their S code. Colors, okay? So colors will be string, S code will be string, right? So I'll just say string, string, meaning I have to provide a string for the key, and I have to provide the S code for red, which is this. When you start programming, you will see the use case of this. But right now, I'm just showing you how to store those values, how to manipulate those values. I'm just putting some random stuff here. If you want the blue, you can also look for blue, okay? The bottom line here is you need to know that whenever you have a string, you have to use string. Whenever you have integer string, you have to use integer string. And whatever it is you want to use, it has to be based on that instance. Okay? It has to be based on that instance. Sample map is no longer sample map, it is called color. You see, what is the use case of this? I can just look through the map for all the items in the map, gets me the value, the color code of blue. Let's say you want to use blue, you're hungry to use blue. You can just get the color code of blue and you use it. The same way we have for lists, we can add. I can add into a map. Secondary colors, which is a new map. Then I can what? Say dot. Okay. Anytime you use dots, just know you want to call a method. Put all. The same way we have for add all, we can put all colors. So we have a map called colors. We put some item into that map. Then we created another map. We put all the colors, our previous map. This is adding one map to the other. Okay? There is more to the map. Go to the methods and find out what you can do with a map. This is one of the most important things in map. It's called key sets. What is a key set? A key set returns a set that contains all the keys in the map. Oh God, this is so powerful. The key set returns a set that contains all the keys in the map. So if I have a map, which is this color map, and I want to get only red, blue, yellow out of the colors, what do I need to do? I use what they call the key sets. The key sets on a map would give me all the keys present in a map. So if I run my system.debug, what I should get is red, blue, yellow. Blue, red, yellow is going to arrange them. Remember, set will arrange them, okay? So B comes before R and R comes before yellow, okay? Set will arrange them. But the bottom line is I can get all the keys. What if I want to get all the values? This is the key. This is the value. This is the key value pair. Now that I've gotten all the keys, what if I want to get all the values? There's what they call the values. Returns a list that contains all the values. What is the difference between key sets and values? Key sets will return a set. Values will return a list. What you get out of the system, the data type, is very important. The data type is very important. How you store data, how you manipulate data is programming. Once you can get this, you are in color value does not exist, values, okay? Color, so you need to declare color value, okay? So how do you declare color value? You just put color value as a list of string, okay? You put color value as a list of string. Remember, you need to declare that before you can use it. You cannot pass value into anything until you've already declared it. So the system will know that these are the type of values I should be passing into my color value, okay? Blue, red, yellow. It gives me all the keys. It gives me all the keys. FF00000 FF and blah, 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 gave me all the values in the set. Knowing how to get the keys and the value is so powerful. You see the use case of this, but knowing how to get it is powerful because I can now say color value is a list, right? Then I would check if color value contains this account number, do this. If color value contains industry called apparel, do this. If color value is greater than 350 million, do this. But how do I get the color value? This is it. How do I loop through the color value? We're going to do tomorrow. How do we check for each color value present in the color value list? Do something about that color value. That's manipulation of the data. So now you've seen how to get it. You've also seen how to get the size of map. I want to get the size of a list. I know that I can use size. I want to get the size of a set. I know I can use size. And I know how to get the size of a map. I can equally use size. Okay, can you see, like, this stuff is not hard. You just need to understand how to read documentation. If you can read documentation, you are in good shape to become a programmer. So what I would encourage you to do is make sure that have I declared size of list before? Okay. It says I've declared size of list, so size of map, sorry. Okay. Okay, so we have this, and if you want to print it out, all you just need to do is debug, right? Just debug size of list. Debug. Obviously, there will be the same thing. I'm just showing you that you can call size on a set. You can call size on a list. You can call size on a map. Then you can also check if they are empty. I've shown you how to use it. They're all three, right? Because obviously there are three. I've shown you how to read this documentation. We're going to see more of the use case. For instance, how do you query the account object and store it into the list? We're going to do that tomorrow. Or we're going to use the control statement. The bottom line is you need to master everything I've just shown you today, because it's going to get interesting as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to put a pause here to find out if you guys are with me. You guys have any questions? Then I can easily address them before we move into something different today. So it's not something hard, it's just something different. Okay, please raise your hand up if you have any question, so we can quickly go through those questions and we move into something a little bit more different, but still this along the same line of what we've learned so far. So I'll call you according to how your hands are being raised. Just give me 1 minute, please. So Ola, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Good evening, guys. So, Batope, you taught us tonight how to declare list and set majorly the collections. But now, when we declare it, we state the data type, which is string or integer. What if, say, we have a list of a list that mixes string and say integer, like maybe a list of field in an account in an object that mixes, say, data types together, but we've been declaring it as like maybe hard coding it. How do we do that kind of list or that kind of set where the data type is not really like just singular?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what you just need to use is string. So the system will assume that whatever you're passing in there is string. Okay, so remember I told you you can have a list of a list, right? So that don't let us get into that for now. We have string. Okay, and all I'm just going to say is sample list dot hard. Okay, and so there's also a list of accounts. So for instance, if you want account to be precise, you have a list of accounts and you will be able to add anything that has to do with the account object. So this account, which is sample account, because you have to declare that account, right? Right? Sample account, then you can add accounts like this. Okay? This is valid. Okay? So we select that and we have that. Can you see? You've just literally added an account. Then you can have a list of string like this. Remember, it can contain primitive. You have to specify it like, even though you might want to, you might want to convert it later on, but you still need to specify this because you've already declared this as a string. Okay. Then if you want to now say, I know that this list has 2 as the first element, then you can convert the first element into an integer. Okay. There's also a list of S objects. I don't want to get into complex scenarios, but there's also a list of S objects whereby you can literally just declare an account into that list. S object is called Salesforce objects. And you're saying this list is a list of an account. Okay, so you can just specify that account, which is this account. You can specify it there, just like that. Okay, and you can have 2 string. Okay. But if you've already specified the type of list, you wouldn't be able to now start putting an integer. You have to put it this way. Even if you want to put false and stuff like that, you have to put it like that. So it is you that know that the second index of this list is a boolean. The third index is whatever, an integer or a string. But the moment you declare it as a string, everything that goes into the list will become a string. However, you can manipulate the value and turn it into an integer, the same way we saw how to convert string to integer yesterday. Okay, so you can do that way. And there are other ways you can also manipulate a list. For instance, you can create an abstract class. Yesterday, I showed you about creating sample class, right? Sample class. And because you have a sample class, you can write your own structure of this list. So the structure could just be you're passing in different stuff into sample class, meaning that I have a sample class, okay, a sample class list, and I can now be passing in a list of sample class. And because of the structure of sample class, I can add values that are similar to sample class. But remember, if you know that your list would have different values, like string, like integer, all you need to do is to collect them in different lists. Okay, collect them in different lists, then you add the list together. Okay, you add the list together, but you assume that the list is string. So it will now be able to add all lists together. Okay, So you just need to kind of like play around with different kinds of ways which you can manipulate a list. Okay? Play with different kind of lists, ways you can manipulate a list, and see equals to get S object type. Just 1 minute. 2. This is just to get the type of S object. And this is just to convert to list. So see different ways you can manipulate a list and try to use it. But what you might want to do, if you want it to be generic, then you might want to store it using a different object. Okay, you might want to store it using a different object. For instance, when we start redeveloping, you'll be able to instantiate, declare a field, a virtual field, and you can add it. Okay, so don't let us go into complex stuff right now. Let's make it easy so people can understand. Okay, Ola?
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Sagal, please unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, hi, Babatope. So my question is, usually in like in Apex, most of the time we will be just more like gathering the data from the org and then manipulating it, right? So all we need to know right now is how to define the list, the map, the sets, and then kind of then after that query so that we get the information and then manipulate it, correct? We don't really need to do any, we don't really need to kind of like put them together or like just create new stuff.
Yes, so right now we haven't done any manipulation. We've only seen how we can collect data, which is integer, list of integer, list of string, set of integer, set of string, set of double, or whatever it is. Then once we go deeper into the training, we start seeing the use case of all this collection. So remember, this is a collection. What we did yesterday was just single data, double class size cost equals $2.5. Okay, that's fine. Then today we're doing more than just one value. We're collecting so many values. Tomorrow we're going to be checking what we are collecting. For instance, what Ola was saying is that we want to have a list of string and a list of integer, but we want to bring them together. That's complex. We cannot do that with what we've learned so far. For us to be able to do that, we need to start creating class, a wrapper class, a this, a that. Then we start adding those stuff into the list. So the wrapper class would have a list, and we should be able to add this into a wrapper class that has a definition. The most important thing is you have to define it, because Apex is strongly typed, meaning that if you do not know what you're passing into a list, a set, it will reject it. It doesn't want it. It wants to be secured. Okay? So, Sagal, we're going to get into manipulation of these items. But for now, I want you to understand these collections and all the methods present in this collection. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
No worries. So now, yesterday, I showed you a snippet of a class, okay, which is a sample class, okay? The sample object, anyway, is still called class, okay? It means that I can create an instance of this sample object. For instance, sample object, the instance of sample object equals new sample objects, and that's it. I've created an instance of this sample object. The same way we have for dates, and we have methods inside dates, such as date.day, which gives us the day in a date. We can now use, or we can create methods inside sampled objects. We can create methods inside sample objects. What are methods? Methods are just things that is inside sample objects. Methods are just things that make life easier for programmer. Let's say we want to be able to add item into a list. Is a method. That means they've already developed this method. We're just using it. We don't even know how it works. We're just using it, right? So let's develop a simple method. If you want to develop a simple method, you have to use what they call modifiers. Modifiers are what makes this method available. Okay? Methods are the methods you have in this class starts with public, meaning that I want this method to be available to anyone that wants to use it. Then it has what they call the data type. Data type is integer, double, string, whatever you want to call it, okay? String, then it has the method name. The method name is the method you're creating. Then what you want to do with that in that method. What do I want to do in that method? Then you have the things you want to do in the method. Okay, let's see how Salesforce describe methods. Okay, methods. I don't know if it's showing the right stuff I want. Method. Okay, let's see. Okay, I want to get you something that you can understand. Yeah, so when you are working with methods, you have the modifiers. The access modifier is what determines whether this method will be available to the public or not. Private, meaning that the method is only available within the class. Okay? Protected, meaning that the method is only visible to an inner class, which we're going to do later on, not now. Public, meaning that the method is available to anyone that wants to use it. So access modifiers are very important. Okay? So now look at an example. Public string get size. As you can see, we have the public, which is available to all, the data type, which is a string, and the get size, which is the name of the method you have just written. So to better understand it, let's see how you can use it within Salesforce methods. You have a static, which is static is just a way to say this method is static and stuff like that, which I'm going to explain later. We have the data type and we have the type. Okay, and you can return in a method when you call dates dot day. It gives you what? The day in a date, meaning that you can return the day if you call dot day. So if I want to return the tax, if I want to calculate tax, this is a method to calculate tax. And I am putting inside the method. This is the input. Okay, the inputs. I'm putting in salary inside the method. And I want to calculate tax as salary times 0.13. So what I have just done is created a method. Let's call this double, okay? Because it has to do with decimal. I've created a method called calculate tax, and it is returning a double. And for me to return the double, for me to return this, I need to use what they call the return statement. The return statement would ensure that anytime I call calculate tax and I pass in a salary into calculate tax, I will be able to manipulate the salary and return the salary. Okay? You can either do this like this. Okay, you can either do this, okay? But obviously you need to have declared salary. So you can either do this or you can just return it immediately without saving yourself the next line, okay? So I created a method called calculate tax. The method requires an input called salary, and it returns the salary times 0.13. Okay, so how do I call this method? I call this method by, first of all, declaring the instance of the method. That means the instance of sample object. I can now do dot calculate tax. I can call calculate tax from the salary object because I have declared the instance of that class. Then inside that class, I know that there is calculate tax. So I'm now calling calculate tax. Okay. So calculate tax requires what? Means to pass in a salary. So I'll just pass in a salary. Okay. Then system.debug. Tax is double D tax. Okay, so I save the value of calculate tax into the tax, and the data type is double. So the tax, let's see what happens. It says method does not exist or incorrect signature, void. Calculate tax is decimal from type sample. So it's saying calculate tax and I'm passing decimal. That's why it's giving me error, okay? Calculate tax is integer. That means I need to actually put the right stuff. So the best thing for me to do right now is just to change the type of value. For some reason, it doesn't recognize the double because double is created out of this, right? So it says I need to pass an integer. This is an integer, okay? Tax is 130. How did I get 130? I created a method inside sample objects, okay, called calculate tax. Calculate tax is public, meaning I can use it outside of this class. I can use it anywhere as long as I am within the namespace of Salesforce for my org. That's why I use public. Double, meaning that the results of this calculation, the data type I get out of this result is a double. So when I'm returning the calculate tax, I should be collecting it in a double. Calculate tax is the name of the method I just created. That calculate tax, I can now use it in my calculation. Integer salary is the input I need in order to calculate tax. The inputs, without this input, I would not be able to calculate tax. Okay? Then, when I want to use it, I declare an instance of that class, sample object. I declare the instance. Then I use that instance because the instance, I have access to this method because this method is public. Calculate tax, which requires integer. So now, this is where it gets interesting. If I had used private instead of public, I save. Now, I try the same thing. Method is not visible. It says that I am trying to call calculate tax, but the method is not visible. The method is not visible. That means I cannot call calculate tax when it is private. Okay? That is what they call the access modifier, ability to access a method. The same way, you can create another method that requires two inputs. Let's say I want to calculate area. Public. Let's call this one static to even make it interesting. Static. Double. Okay. Calculate area. What is area? Area is length times breadth of a square or something like that. I can say double, I can say integer A, integer B. Okay? Integer A, integer B. Then return A times B, which is the area, right? A times B is the area. But I need to change this to integer because if I multiply two integers together, I should get an integer, right? What is the difference between calculate tax, which has just one input, to calculate area, which has two inputs? Doesn't matter. The bottom line is you need two inputs in calculation of area. You need just one input in calculation of tax. So the difference between a static and non-static, which is the default if you don't specify static, is with static, you do not need to declare an instance. You can use it immediately. Let me show you. Integer, area equals sample object dot calculate area to 4. System.debug area. Okay. Method is not visible. Save. Okay. Area is 8. So can you guys see the difference between declaring an instance and not declaring an instance? If you do not want to declare an instance, you use static, meaning that the system would automatically run the process without declaring the instance of sample object. There are benefits to this. If you're a programmer, you probably do not need to know this as an entry-level programmer. However, if you're an advanced programmer, you will know the difference between using static and non-static. For instance, static has to do with memory. Once you declare this and you run this in runtime, you do not need to instantiate this. It already knows that calculate tax is integer and is an instance of sample object. It's faster when you do this compared to this. This you would always need to redeclare all the time. But with static, you don't have to declare. Okay? So you need to know how this works, and you need to be able to use it. The reason why I showed you this class is because we'll start developing some Apex class, and you need to know the difference between double, which is the data type, public and private, which is the access modifier, and input to a method, and the return. You need to know all this. Okay, so let's take a pause to find out if everything is okay. You guys know why we're instantiating. You guys know the difference between the static and the non-static method. And you guys know that anytime you want to return something, you'll need to put return in front of it. Okay? Do you guys have any questions based on what we've just learned today? We've seen how to assign data into a variable, and we've seen how to create methods and use methods. We've seen how to create from scratch, how to, instead of using the day.day method, which is inbuilt into Salesforce, we've created our own method and we've used it. Okay, this is how you start programming. You use the data, which you declare into the data type of this variable. Then you start returning that data. This is just a tip of an iceberg of what is coming. So please, do you guys have any questions before we move further? Do you guys have any questions? Is everything clear? Are we moving too fast? I need to know now. So please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question before we end the class for tonight. But please, I want you to master list, set, and map. This is the beginning of programming. We're going to revisit this later on. Don't worry about that. But this you need to master. How to store the value of what you're calculating is very important. Having the right value, storing it into the right data type would help you manipulate things. Okay? In the absence of questions, no questions, then we are going to end the class for tonight. Please, again, thanks for attending the class. I will see you tomorrow, but please make sure you are doing your revision in your spare time. It's very important, okay? Take care, guys. Have a good night. All the best. Bye, everyone.